Summoners, and welcome to another Pro Guides video. In this one, we're going to cover some wave management, specifically in the top lane. In the top lane, minion wave management is the most impactful because of how dangerous it is and how easy it is to abuse someone when they don't manage the wave correctly. Make sure to leave any feedback, comments, or suggestions down below, and also feel free to answer our question of the day, which is, who do you think can carry harder? A player who can dodge every ability thrown at them, or a player who lands every single one of theirs? But before we get started, make sure you go to ProGuides.com if you want to see huge improvements in your rank. We upload video guides similar to this one every single day on our website, and as of now, we are currently uploading a Challenger gameplay analysis guide for every single champion, so make sure you click that link below. Also, we have an exclusive coaching feature called Play with a Pro, which provides instant on-demand 24/7 coaching from the best of the best. Trust me guys, you won't want to miss out on this, so sign up today. Now with that being said, let's jump into it. The most fundamental things that you need to understand are slow pushes, fast pushes, and freezes. We have another video on our channel called The Only Minion Wave Management Guide That You'll Ever Need, and that goes more in depth about this. It also goes quite in depth about every concept that you'll need to know in order to master minion wave management, so make sure you check that one out first if you need a better understanding. For now, we will go over them briefly. A slow push is when you push the wave, well, slowly, or at least as slowly as you possibly can. A fast push is the opposite, where you push the wave as fast as you can. A freeze is creating a situation where the minion wave will always push towards you. It's paramount that you understand these concepts both as a top laner and as a teammate. Whenever you gank for your top laner or if you lane swap, it's important to take into consideration the state of their minion wave and act accordingly. Bad or good minion wave management can easily lead to anywhere from a 20 to a 50 CS deficit, or a lead within the first 14 minutes of the game. That's the equivalent of basically 1 to 3 kills worth of gold, so it's very important that you always manage the wave correctly, that way you continue farming or zoning your opponent. Ideally, you want to have the wave pushing towards you when you're in dangerous spots or don't know where the enemy jungler is. This allows you to sit back, play safe, and allow the minion wave to eventually come to you. When you don't have this luxury, you should instead try to build up a minion wave with a slow push to make it harder for your opponents to gank you and more difficult for your opponent to freeze the wave. It takes a lot of practice, and there's a lot that goes into this, so again, make sure you check out the video that we mentioned earlier if you're not yet comfortable with this stuff. With that aside, let's talk about some common mistakes that we see. Number 1 is not pushing the wave in before you recall. Luckily, one of the most common mistakes is the easiest one to fix. A lot of players, especially low elo ones, are not pushing in the waves right before they're ready to base. What pushing in a wave does for you before you recall is allow you to farm more, miss less minions, and make your opponent miss minions if they're not in lane, and have more gold for items once you return to base. It seems fairly simple and insignificant, but the most substantial reason you want to do this is because of the natural flow of minion waves. Whenever one team's minions push into turret, it's likely that the following minion waves will meet and then begin slow pushing back in the opposite direction. In other words, if you push in the wave before you base, you can set up the wave to push back to you. You clear the minion wave, recall, and come back to lane to catch the majority of the minions, or at least more than you would have if you didn't push. Another common mistake is made by players who do know the value of pushing in waves before they recall, but they kind of make a mistake where they try to push in waves, but they do so at a bad time. When pushing in a wave, you have to consider how quickly you can do it, and whether or not you can make it hit the enemy turret. A lot of players understand that one of the best times to push a wave is when your opponent recalls. The issue arises when they try to fast push a wave, but fail to do so quickly enough. This results in them being punished because the enemy laner can return to lane and then freeze the subsequent waves. The reason this usually happens is because somebody attempts to fast push a wave when the minion waves meet closer to their own turret. Even if they can manage to clear the entire wave, it'll take some extra time for those minions to hit the enemy turret because there's simply some more extra ground that they have to cover. Another reason this happens is because players try to fast push a cannon wave. While it's definitely possible, it's much harder to do this because of how beefy those cannon minions are. Ultimately, both scenarios require more time to successfully push in the wave, and this means that your opponent has more time to return to lane with their items as well as their health and mana replenished. In many cases, you won't be able to completely push the wave in these situations because your opponent can pressure a solo kill on you. When you can't push the wave in fast enough, you'll end up causing the minions to meet close to the enemy's turret. And in that situation, it becomes very risky for you to try to finish the push because the enemy jungler can gank you and your opponent has more room to chase you down. Next up is a less common mistake, but still a mistake nevertheless. Many players don't understand the value of proxy farming. If you don't know what that is, proxy farming is moving past the enemy's turret and clearing the minion wave before it meets your own. The most common place to do this is between the tier 1 and the tier 2 turrets, but some champions like Singed can go even deeper to accomplish this. Honestly though, you don't need to play Singed to take advantage of this technique, though we really don't suggest running into the enemy's base as anyone else, because your results probably will vary and not be very good. If you're doing it on anybody but Singed, you're pretty much inting. What makes proxy farming so strong is that it pressures your lane opponent and also gives you an extended roam timer. You don't always have to roam with them either, and one of the most common uses of these lengthy chunks of time is just a recall. By proxying the wave, this means that your own minion wave doesn't even have to meet. Your enemy will either have to let the wave crash into their turret or tank the minion wave for whatever reason. If they're trying to freeze the wave, this makes it much more difficult, so they'll usually have to concede and allow it to reach their turret. This allows you to get turret damage, and your opponent will probably lose some health and of course lose some farming under tower. Especially when you pull ahead and feel confident, or if you've gotten very strong vision control of the enemy jungle, players should be taking advantage of proxy farming more and more. You're able to either roam mid, teleport bottom, or recall for free after proxying. Essentially, you farm the minions about 15 seconds earlier than you would have traditionally. That's 15 more seconds for you to make a play out of your lane, or allow you to quickly commute back to your own lane and miss literally 0 minions. Now that we've talked about some common mistakes, let's go over some strategies that you can implement in order to help you improve your laning phase. The first strategy is a simple one, and that's to auto attack a single minion in the first wave. Can you guess some reasons why this is so important? Our analyst made a pretty bold claim when creating this video. The first auto attack on the minion wave alone could win you the entire laning phase. I know it sounds crazy, but here's why. Number 1, you can get level 2 first and take advantage of your level 2 power spike for an advantageous trade. You also can create a slow pushing wave, making it difficult for your opponent to win trades. You can also stack your wave, and it allows you to completely shove in the wave uncontested. This means that your opponent will have a very hard time freezing, and also that the wave will bounce back to you. A lot of solo kills are as a result of implementing this strategy. It's very logical when you think about it. Getting the wave to slow push early allows you to hit level 2 first and get that nasty trade that you want. Sometimes this leads to a solo kill off of that power spike alone. At other times, it just leads to a nice chunk, forcing your opponents to use their pots. With a health advantage, you can dictate the minion wave, since you should be able to win drawn out fights. By slow pushing waves, you can continue to deny your opponents, since they'll have to respect your power advantage. If they attempt to farm, this is when you play aggressively and you punish them. By fighting back with a stacked wave, you'll most likely win because your buddies got your back and aren't going to be happy seeing you get hurt. As a ranged champion, there's obviously another huge benefit when doing this. After crashing a huge wave, your enemy is stuck trying to farm it. Every time they try to farm, you have an opportunity to either throw out an ability or an auto attack for some poke. While they may even be able to go and get the farm with you initially, you'll be able to reliably and safely push your opponents out of lane. Basically, you're going to find some kind of lead as long as you've practiced and understand how to properly poke. You'll either find solo kills, experience advantages, or turret plates by building up waves and using them to assist you. Our next strategy is practically the opposite of the first one. This strategy involves tanking the first minion wave to break their formation. This technique is called pulling the wave, and what this does is it creates a scenario where the wave will push to you from the get-go. You execute this strategy by meeting the enemy minions before they meet yours and drawing their attention, and dragging them upwards towards the lane brush closest to your opponent's turret. From there, you walk into the brush to disappear from their vision and let them meet the minion wave. This alone will naturally force the minion wave to push into you for a few reasons. By breaking the minions' formation, naturally the minions will meet and they will already have enemy minions targeted. But if you meet them beforehand, you disrupt the programming of the game and often cause them to all focus on the same minion. With all 6 minions focusing on one minion, they will push it very quickly. You also force the minion waves to meet a little bit closer to the enemy side of the lane. Like we mentioned in many of our videos, a wave closer to one team's turret is the teams whose minions will eventually push back. What using this strategy does is forces your opponent to either push their wave or trade with you. You can use this strategy when you have a favorable matchup or if your jungler is planning on ganking top a lot. By setting up the initial wave to push, there's basically no way for your opponent to avoid jungle pressure. Under normal circumstances, any player can simply allow the wave to push into them and patiently wait to avoid any jungle ganks. When the wave is set to push from the get-go, one player can immediately begin a freeze, while the other one will eventually have to take a risk if they want to reset the wave into a better spot. This is a perfect opportunity for junglers to apply pressure and likely find a kill. Our final strategy is a really simple one. If you don't know already, recalling before a cannon wave is one of the most efficient things you can do. Like we mentioned earlier with the mistakes that we covered, cannon minion waves take the longest to clear. This though is a two-way street, and you can recall when the cannon minion is about to transit into your lane. By doing so, you can recall by your items and return to your own lane with very minimal losses. Even if your opponent finishes pushing the entire wave in, their cannon minion will be one of the first minions to tank the turret. They're able to take several turret shots, meaning that other minions won't be available for target selection for a lot longer. Even if you miss the actual cannon itself, you often arrive in time to catch the experience for the cannon minion, but more importantly, be able to farm all of the other ones in the wave. This minimizes how much you have to sacrifice in order to recall, allowing you to build bigger leads that you would do if you didn't. That's going to conclude this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys like more content like this, check out ProGuides.com where we've teamed up with pro players to create courses designed to help you take your game to the next level. Also, keep an eye out on our YouTube channel where we're constantly updating it with new content just like this. Good luck on the Rift, and we'll see you all next time.